Hey everyone, welcome back to another bumpy week in the real estate market. I'm Sarah Mislowski with KeyPoint Homes Group. I help clients from all over relocate right here to Georgia, and I'm excited to be with you this week. We've had a lot of interesting changes in the mortgage and real estate world this week. So first off, everyone has seen the headlines of the Silicon Valley Bank collapse, and surprisingly, that had a very, very strange effect on the real estate market and mortgage rates. So first, welcome. Thank you for joining me on the live stream. I'm excited to have you with me tonight. Of course, if you have any questions about the real estate market or making a move to Georgia, make sure that you ask me in the comments below. It's funny, I think last week I talked about how cold it was, or maybe it was the week before, and I had someone that watched the replay. They were watching from Wisconsin, and they told me to suck it up, Buttercup, that they were rolling their eyes because if I was complaining about how cold it was in Georgia, imagine going through a winter in Wisconsin. And we have a saying here in Georgia that just as soon as you think that a season has kind of made its change, guess again, because the season's going to come back again. So we had our second winter earlier this week. So yesterday, the high was in the low 50s, and the wind, oh my gosh, y'all, the wind was just out of control. And I was actually outside filming some great new videos for y'all, and the wind chill was so cold and it was freezing to be outside. So for that viewer that told me to suck it up, Buttercup, I could not suck it up yesterday. It was so cold. But thankfully, we ended today kind of like in the mid 60s, and it felt really great out. So I think spring is definitely sprung. It's here. It's coming, right? I think that was our last little bit of cold weather that we have. And so a lot of people that watch us and reach out and move to Georgia, they're moving because of the weather, right? They're trying to escape that cold. So I am not I'm not made to deal with the cold weather. So, last week we had highs in the 80s. And so going from the 80s to waking up needing a coat for 32-degree weather just was not my cup of tea. But super excited for the warmer weather ahead. With warmer weather in Georgia comes pollen. So pollen sprung last week as well. Yellow stuff is coating everything, and my allergies were acting up. And that's just a seasonal thing that you have to deal with for moving here or being here in Georgia. It's definitely something that you have to deal with. So thank you for joining us, and I'd love to know where you're watching us from. We get to help people from all over, and it's really cool to see who we get on the live stream and where you're watching from. We've had some people from Brazil here recently, and that's been super exciting for me. So the topic of the live stream is, will the SVB banking collapse cause kind of like the real estate market to have a meltdown, or like what impact is that going to have on you as a buyer, and what can that do to rates? What is that going to do to home prices? Does it matter? And let me tell you, it's really confusing. So let's dig into it. I'm going to share with you some articles that recently came out over the past day or so, and let's dig into what the experts are saying. So let me share my screen here. Let's pull this up. So a surprising thing that we have experienced with the Silicon Valley banking collapse was that mortgage rates took a tumble this week. And that was great news, especially for my buyers that we got under contract this week. The rate that they were quoted just last week, and then what we were able to lock them in at today or yesterday, drastically different from the rate that they were quoted last week. So mortgage rates took a tumble. It says the average rate on the popular 30-year fixed mortgage rate dropped to 6.57% on Monday, according to Mortgage News Daily. So let's go down and take a look at this. That was from a recent high of 7% last Wednesday. So back in January, we had mortgage rates were coming down. And then all of a sudden we got some bad news from the Fed and on inflation, and that's causing the interest rates to go the opposite direction and go back up. They kind of reached the sevens again last week. And then all of a sudden we had Silicon Valley Bank kind of went under, right? And so the Fed needed to come in and rescue them. And that had a positive effect on mortgage rates. So the reason that that had a positive effect on mortgage rates is essentially kind of like what the Fed was trying to do, which is put inflationary measures in place to tamp down inflation, apply pressure to the markets. Eventually, something was going to have to crack and break. Well, Silicon Valley Bank was the first to go under. They just did not have simply enough reserves in their bank account to handle the run on the bank when everyone tried to come in and get their money out. And so the Fed obviously stepped in and rescued them. So now the Fed is kind of sitting back and saying, okay, we don't want this to happen to any other banks. Maybe what we're doing is working, and let's maybe rethink some of these planned interest rate hikes that we had planned out. So it's going to be kind of seen in the weeks to come if the Fed is going to continue with their planned interest rate hikes that they had already said that they were going to do. But right now, the economist and the market is saying that they don't think that that's going to happen, which is why we are seeing interest rates fall again. So I thought this is really, really interesting. It says in real terms, for a buyer looking at a $500,000 house with a 20% down payment, if you were looking at a 30-year fixed mortgage, the monthly payment this week is $128 less than it was just last week at that 7% interest rate. So this is kind of like in real terms, exactly how this is having a direct impact on you and your bank account. Going under contract on a $500,000 house with $20,000 down this week is $128 cheaper than what it was last week. So, great question. What does this mean for our spring housing market? Let me tell y'all, we are seeing a return of buyers to the market. And I've been telling y'all this for weeks now, but I'm seeing this play out day in and day out with the clients that I'm helping. I'm seeing this in the availability of showings whenever we go to schedule showing requests and get into the house to actually see them. But oftentimes we are passing people in the driveway, right? So someone's coming out, we're coming into the house. By the time that we're coming out of the house, finished with the showing, the next family is out there waiting to get in. So just in kind of qualitative terms, that just means that, we're seeing anecdotally that buyers are out there, they're looking. And now with this kind of dip in interest rates again, I imagine that buyers are going to come much more out of the woodwork and return to the market and try to find those houses. Now, one of the things that we're experiencing here in the metro Atlanta area is we are seeing a very low levels of inventory. So one of the reasons that we have so many people waiting to get into houses and trying to get those time slots is because there are very few houses that are out there. And so when a new house hits the market, it's priced well, that it looks good, photographs well, all these people that have been waiting for new inventory, they are jumping on and they're like, yes, a new fresh one. Let's go take a look at it. And so that is part of the reason why we are seeing such a high demand as well. We've got Leonardo watching us from Chicago. Thanks for joining us again this week on the live stream. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you for watching, and we're happy to have you. So of course, a large part of this live stream every single week is answering your questions that you may have about the real estate market, making a move, about the housing market. So make sure that you drop those questions in the comments below or in the chat below. I'd love to answer those for you this week. So let's go look at interesting thing. We talked about the interest rates. And so here is a chart that Mortgage News Daily put out. And so you can go back and you can track the historical daily interest rates. But you see here, just like that article said, last week on March 8th, we had interest rates at 7%. And then as of today, they were down to 6.5%. So one of the things that you need to know too is that this does not account for any points. So you'll see that column to the rate is empty. A very popular thing for buyers to do right now is to purchase points to kind of buy down that rate even further. And so a lot of times whenever a lender quotes a rate right now, they are factoring in at least one discount point. Confusing thing about points is that one discount point doesn't necessarily mean, it doesn't equate to a full point reduction in your interest rate. On average, one mortgage point usually equals 0.25% drop. So 1 point today would likely get you around 6.25%, and a discount point is going to cost you 1% of the loan. So it'll cost you $6,500 to get that. 1% of the purchase price. Sorry. So on a $500,000 house, it's going to cost you $5,000 to buy that one discount point. All right. Thank you again for joining us. And so if you haven't already, let me know in the comments where you're watching us from. Here is another kind of chart that kind of shows you historically what interest rates have done. And gosh, obviously we knew interest rates were really great for the past 2 years, but now here we are, right? And so this is kind of the new normal. So if you are someone that is on the fence about buying, or you're waiting for a big crash to happen, or you're waiting for this huge correction, it's not likely going to happen. So rates in the sixes are the new normal. And what we're counting on is hopefully at some point in the future, you're going to have an opportunity to refinance, hopefully into the fives. We might see that latter quarter, fourth quarter of this year, maybe next year. Hopefully you may have that opportunity to do that relatively soon, but we can't necessarily 100% count on that. So make sure that if you are thinking about buying a house and you're on the fence about it, really make sure that you can qualify and you can afford the monthly payment at whatever their interest rates are today, because that's the one known thing that you know, guaranteed for sure. That is what you are looking at. Let's see here. Leonardo asks, hi, Sarah. I commented on your video asking about Chafin Communities. Just wanted to get your thoughts on them. When I commented, I was already under contract with another realtor. Oh, that's right, Leonardo. I remember. I love Chafin. They're a great local builder. I've had several clients buy directly from them, with my help. They're one of the few local builders that build a really, really quality, well-made product. And so they're going to give you a really good customer service experience. They have a really good home warranty process. And so I personally have not had any issues with them. And I've really enjoyed the experience. My clients have enjoyed the homes. They build a really, really great community. You're going to find Chafin builders in kind of like the North Metro Atlanta area, kind of in Gwinnett County, Hall County, Jackson County. That's really kind of their area of expertise, is kind of like in that northeast corner of Metro Atlanta area. All right. So I am answering your questions today. We're talking about the changes in the real estate market. The good news is that we have experienced lower interest rates, and I'm interested to see, where do you see the market heading? I would love to get your input, kind of what you're feeling as potential buyers, potential sellers out there. I would love to kind of get your input on what you're seeing in your market and what you're feeling is happening. So obviously, if you have any questions about making a move, drop them in the chat. I would love to answer them. So let's go to a couple of questions right now. Oh, we have someone watching from Lima, Peru, South America. Thank you so much. That's very exciting that you're watching us from so far away. I greatly, greatly appreciate that. Rich and Joy said, I made an offer through my agent, but I was outbid. Am I tied with my agent per buyer's contract? This is a great question. So whenever you are purchasing a house and you're working with a real estate agent, that real estate agent is going to most likely have you sign what is called a buyer's brokerage engagement agreement. That buyer's brokerage engagement agreement is essentially like a contract between you and that real estate agent's broker, saying that you are agreeing to have that broker represent you in the transaction. Now, the person representing you in the transaction is the agent that you're working directly with. Technically, that agreement is between you as the buyer and the actual brokerage. So if you have signed a buyer's brokerage agreement, engagement agreement, that is a contractual agreement between you and that agent saying that they're going to represent you in real estate transactions. Now, you have the ability to let the broker know that you're maybe dissatisfied with what you're receiving. If you are dissatisfied with that, and the brokerage has the ability to either partner you with another agent, or they say, you know what, this is just something that we're going to terminate, and mutually agree that we're terminating this brokerage agreement. almost always an agent or a brokerage would want to make sure that you're having a really great experience. And so they will always, not always, but they should always let you out of that agreement if you just notify them in writing. I say that you should always. If anyone that I'm working with would ever contact me and say, hey, thanks for working with me, and I want to move in a different direction, I would like to terminate my brokerage agreement, I would never want to keep someone working with me that didn't feel like I was serving them in the best way. Now, of course, I would encourage you strongly to go back to your agent, maybe share some feedback if you are in an engagement agreement with them of maybe what you're not happy with. And it might just be a simple miscommunication or something to that nature. So this is not a solicitation, just for legality reasons. I'm not soliciting to be your agent in this if you are in an engagement, a broker engagement agreement. However, if you've not signed anything legally, so here in Georgia, it would be called a buyer's brokerage engagement agreement. If you have not signed that, you have nothing tying you to that real estate agent. So that's just something to keep in mind. Leonardo is saying that I'm predicting housing to remain pretty stagnant. Yeah, so I think we're in it right now. Like currently what we're seeing, I think there might be, especially here in the metro Atlanta area, I think there might be a little bit more tightening or competition for houses coming up in the next couple of months as more and more buyers come to the market. We're still waiting on more houses to hit the market. There's some sellers out there that are going to be putting their homes for sale in the coming weeks in this traditional spring selling season, but we're still in a scenario, at least here in the metro Atlanta area, where we do not have enough houses to currently meet the demand of how many buyers there are. So anytime you have more demand, less supply, we're going to kind of see those multiple offer situations or homes still kind of selling for a premium. And so I've shared with y'all before that here recently, I've had a couple of clients that have been in multiple offer situations, and I'm seeing those in really sought after areas like Swanee, Cumming, Alpharetta, in those areas where homes are priced well, homes are photographed really well, and they're in good condition. So where the sellers still kind of like put their best foot forward, those homes are still selling for multiple offer situations. Now, the good thing is that we're not seeing like crazy over asking multiple offer situations that we saw back in the pandemic. But at least in the two most recent multiple offer situations I was in, I've seen those houses sell for $15,000 to $20,000 over asking price. So that's just something to keep in mind. So conversations that I'm having with buyers right now is that if you have the ability to buy now, let's go ahead and see if we can find that perfect home for you now rather than waiting, because the longer we wait, the more competition we're going to have, especially during this spring selling season. So there's still great opportunities out there though. So most recent scenario I had with some clients yesterday, we got some fantastic clients under contract on an amazing house with the most gorgeous pool here in Gainesville. And this house had been on the market for a little bit. They initially overpriced it. They had gone under contract, had a buyer fall out. Now it was back on the market, and we were in a good position where we could the seller had already moved out of the house. So it was empty. So we knew they had some high motivation to accept a contract. And we were able to negotiate something that was $25,000 less than what the current list price was. So that was a really, really good win-win for my buyer. So there are great scenarios out there where you can still get a deal. You just have to kind of know where to look for those deals and what to expect whenever you are making offers and going out there. Alex says, I'm just waiting for the right type of house, Beaufort or anything around that area, half acre or more, hoping investment homes get to the market more since I predict a stagnant market as well. Yeah, so that is something that will be interesting to see. It would be great if some of these investors that have some inventory, if they might decide to sell their home and maybe take that money that they have in those houses and put it in other avenues that might get a better return on investment, or maybe something that they might feel is safer. That would be a good thing for buyers to have more inventory to choose from. And so I definitely think that that's something to keep an eye out for. I don't know that I really anticipate a whole lot of investors putting something on the market, but I did have a really great conversation with an investor today who has many houses that he was thinking about selling. And we were kind of having that conversation of what is your motivation for selling? And he was saying there's a little bit of uncertainty in the market, or what he felt like was in the market right now. Really, from a real estate perspective, I still feel like if you have rental properties right now, it's still a great idea to hold on to them, and that there's still strong demand in rents as well. So who knows what's going to happen to that, but we'll definitely have to keep watching and see what happens. We have someone watching saying, hope to be moving to Georgia from New Jersey, and we vote red. So political motivations is a lot for people moving here as well. So Georgia is a very red state. And if you want to be in a blue area, you can definitely seek out areas of Georgia that it's going to give you that. But we have recently helped quite a few people from New Jersey. And so it's definitely, I understand the motivation for coming down here, the weather, and usually it's also the property taxes as well. So we have much lower property taxes here in Georgia. If you haven't already, like and subscribe to my channel. Y'all, I am so close to 5,000 subscribers, and I'm trying really hard to hit that 5,000 number. So if you haven't already liked and subscribed, I would appreciate it if you could help push me over the edge to that 5,000 number. I'd love to celebrate that. And so thank you for coming back and watching week after week and participating and watching videos. We post brand new video every single Sunday about the North Metro Atlanta area, helping educate you about moving to Georgia. And of course, we do the live stream every single Wednesday where we're answering your questions about the housing market. So if you have any questions about buying or selling, interest rates, getting a loan, anything that you might have a question on, make sure that you drop that in the chat below, and I will be happy to answer that right here for you. So one thing I found interesting, and I wanted to share this with y'all, is speaking about the market and what's happening in the Metro Atlanta area is Zillow released this report based on February data. And so it was the home value index. So kind of like how much home prices have appreciated, what they're seeing in home sales. And you'll see here that for the Metro Atlanta area, they saw an increase in home values or home sales, the prices, by 3.6%. So we are definitely not in one of those areas where we're seeing de-appreciation or seeing home prices go back in the opposite direction. For the most part, it really feels like we had a little bit of a lull here in the Metro Atlanta area in November and December, but January and February has held pretty steady for home prices here in the Metro Atlanta area. And we're kind of seeing a slight, small increase again. And this is good. This is healthy. This is normal. This is what we want to see in the market. And this is what we anticipate to see in the market. We want stability in the market. So this is good, but this is also just a little bit of extra data to show you that, at least yet, based on all the information that we have, we are not seeing any backward decline in home prices here in the Metro Atlanta area. Now, I know some of you may say, but Sarah, I get the home alerts from Zillow and I see those price decreases. In fact, didn't I just tell you about a buyer that we got their house $25,000 less than list price? So those cases are definitely true, but here's why they're true. They're true because either the real estate agent or the seller just missed the mark on the home price to begin with. So we're still seeing that those home prices that are priced well, that they show well, those homes are still selling for close to 100% of value, if not over. And, those home prices are what we're seeing in this 3.6% home value index report from Zillow. Those homes that either they had bad information, maybe they were making an emotional decision on how they price that house. Those are the home prices that we're seeing price decreases on. But just because you're decreasing the house price doesn't necessarily mean that you're also losing money on the actual home value. So if you have more questions about that, let me know. All right, looks like we have some more questions in the comment. Any homes max 410 in Gainesville with half of an acre available? Yes, there are. In fact, the average home price of a house in Gainesville right now is $361,000. It's a little bit down from where it was last year. So that's a good thing because we're seeing some more affordable inventory come on the market. But yes, we can find that. The challenge that you're going to have with that half acre is that you have to be open to having a house that might be a little bit older. Maybe it's had some renovations, or maybe you might have an opportunity to update that house. So if you remember, I've referred to this a couple of weeks ago in my video, or especially with Brandon that was on with me a couple of weeks ago. He lives in Chicago, a great agent there. He bought the Granny Special. Highly recommend buying a Granny Special. And that is a house that grandma owned, someone older that has the good bones, has the good space. It's on that half acre of land, and it just needs someone to come in and give it a little bit of TLC. Need someone to change out the carpet, the light fixtures, put some paint on the walls, and it's going to look like a brand new house. Those are the opportunities that you can find in Gainesville right now for half of an acre. There's definitely some more modern, updated houses as well, but you're definitely not going to get like new construction at that price for half of an acre. Maybe a little bit north of Gainesville, you might be able to find that. So great question. We'd love to adjust your home search or get that out to you. All right. Fullerig, I hope I'm saying that correctly. Do you think a buyer can have a peace of mind buying a not new house after the inspection? Oh, good question. So a home inspection is going to give you hopefully peace of mind. And the home inspector is going to go in and inspect the house from top to bottom. They're going to test all electrical outlets. They're going to look at the hot water heater, the HVAC system, the heater, the roof, under the house, in the attic. They're going to look at everything, and they're going to give you this really lengthy report of every little thing that's wrong with the house. Sometimes getting that report can be very overwhelming because they're pointing out every little thing wrong with the house. But that's what you're paying them for. You're paying them to go through the house and kind of identify every little thing that is not right with the house. So they're going to point out like not having weather stripping around the door. They're going to point out, oh, the bathtub needs a little bit more caulk right here because it's separating just a tiny bit. They're going to point out this door rubs a little bit whenever you go to shut it. And they're also going to point out big things like, hey, the hot water heater is at the end of its life. They're going to point out the water pressure in the house is a little bit too high, and that's not where we recommend it to be. Now, the big thing about that home inspection report is that we want them to uncover those major expensive things like the air conditioning not working properly, a roof leak, plumbing leaks, electrical problems. And you have to have the ability to kind of weigh what's important and what's not important. With any house, unless you're buying new construction, you are going to have routine, ongoing home maintenance things that you're going to have to do with being a new homeowner. And that just kind of comes with it. And so you have to either have the flexibility to learn how to do it yourself through great YouTube videos, or, hopefully you might have a family member that's handy, or through hiring out these little odds and end jobs through a handyman. And you're never going to get a perfect house. I don't think you're ever going to get a house that's going to give you full peace of mind, because you're still going to have this laundry list of little things that need to be done. So sometimes if I have buyers that are super sensitive to home maintenance and they say like, hey, I'm not handy, I don't want to pay anyone to do this, then I would say that we should probably consider just looking at new construction. Then you don't really have to worry about that. And all of your big systems are under warranty. You have a 1 year, usually cosmetic warranty from the builder, where they'll come back a year later and kind of touch up any like nail pops in the drywall, things like that kind of happen after owning a house. But I think just doing those routine homeowner maintenance things on a home is just something that you have to kind of take with this is what it is to be a home buyer. The peace of mind that you should get from the home inspection is that all the big major expensive things have been tested, and at the time of buying the house, they are all working. Now, if you're buying an older house and let's say that the hot water heater is at the end of its life, so it works, it's good, it's putting out the hot water like it should, but that system is 15 years old. Well, a hot water heater is going to cost you about $1,500 to replace. So the thing that you have to do to have that peace of mind is to make sure that you have some money set aside in savings, or that you're constantly adding a little bit of savings to take care of these home maintenance things that may happen as they arise. And that will give you the peace of mind I think that you need in order to maybe think about an older home. So it was very long-winded. I hope that answered your question. I have a tendency to go on and on and on. Alex says, as a recent seller and now buyer, definitely pay for top-notch inspection, especially septic tank. This is a good question, or a good comment. So a lot of homes here in Georgia are on a septic system, especially if you're looking at a house that's on half acre or more. You are likely, almost always, that home is going to be on a septic. You need to have that septic tank pumped and inspected every 3 to 5 years. And if you're buying a home and that seller has not recently had a septic inspection done, it's something that I always try to negotiate for my buyers whenever they're buying a home, to have the seller get that septic pumped and inspected as part of the contract, so that we're locking them in that they have to deliver that clear septic inspection letter. Now, 80% of the time, there's nothing wrong with the septic. So whenever they do the septic inspection, they'll put cameras down in there. They say, hey, everything's working right. They'll pump it out and you get that, clear septic inspection letter, and you know that you don't have to take care of that for another 3 to 5 years. However, every now and then you have a septic inspection done and hey, there's a problem down here. And because it's buried underground, you don't know that there's a problem going on. And so they can be costly to repair and fix, usually a couple thousands of dollars anytime you have to have a repair done on a septic system, but they will last a really long time. So my house was built in the 60s. This was even before they required permitting from the county for a septic system. And we just replaced my septic system this year. So that was that's 60 years. So the original septic system of this house lasted 60 years before we had to have that replaced. So good point there. Mohammed, which North Georgia county has the best tax break for 65 years and older? Oh, great question. I did a video recently about the best tax break for seniors. It was a live stream. And if I remember correctly, Forsyth County, which is Cumming, Georgia, and Hall County, which is Gainesville and Flowery Branch, Oakwood. There's some other little towns here in Hall County. They both offer 100% tax breaks for the school portion of the property tax portion of your property tax bill when you're 65. So some of the other surrounding counties kind of have like a graduated decrease in how much you get whenever you're 65. Some counties were better than others, but off the top of my head, like those are the two that I remember that stood out: Hall County, Forsyth County. But we'd have to go back and get that video or reach out to me. You can send me an email at hello@keypointhomesgroup.com, and I have the charts and where I have all that broken down, and I can send that to you directly. So my contact information is directly underneath this video. And so send me an email there and I will send that to you. But yeah, one of the great benefits of being here in Georgia is that a lot of the counties will offer senior property tax exemptions. And the biggest portion of your property tax bill is the school portion. And so they say, hey, you're a senior, you've been paying this tax for a really long time, you don't have kids in school anymore, why should you still have to pay the school portion of the property tax bill? And so a lot of counties will either reduce that drastically or take it off completely when you're 65, like Hall County and Forsyth County does. Good question. Alex, something I've learned is go see the house first before scheduling a viewing. Pictures won't show if the house is on the bottom side of a street or different things like that. Rainfall runoff matters. You should be my partner real estate agent. So I love this. And I tell this to buyers all the time. You would not believe that you can eliminate half of the houses on your list just by simply doing a drive-by of a neighborhood. Now, I realize that a lot of you are watching me and considering making a move, or you're doing this move virtually. And so you're in another state and you're saying, hey, I need to move to Georgia and I need to be in a house by a certain time period. I don't have the luxury of driving by all of these listings. Well, Google Maps has Street View. And so you can often kind of like virtually drive down the road and look around and kind of see what the neighborhood is like. Also, kind of looking at a map is also really, really helpful, especially if you're trying to be really close to a work location, Google mapping that, making sure you're in the right area and within the right commuting distance of where you want to be can be very, very helpful. But if you have the luxury of being here and driving around, 100% agree. And it is a great way to quickly narrow down a list of houses. Great question. Rich and Joy, what is the best websites to check the property's value? So that is tough to answer. So you're going to see on Zillow, Zillow is going to give a home valuation for the property. Now, if it's in a neighborhood that has recently had a lot of home sales, and if it's in a neighborhood where all the houses are fairly similar to each other, kind of like those cookie cutter neighborhoods, or, there's maybe like 5 or 6 different home styles in the neighborhood, Zillow can be fairly accurate when it comes to that. They're not very accurate sometimes when it comes to homes with unique features. So pools in the backyard, or if it's on acreage, maybe it's a new build and it's on an acre of land, but it's not in a neighborhood. So Zillow really has a hard time with their algorithm of getting that right. But ultimately, it's going to come down to your real estate agent is going to help give you the best idea of a home's value. And what they're going to do is they're going to look at the recent sales. And you can actually even go do this on Zillow. You can go to Zillow. If you click on the property valuation, it's going to jump down and it's going to tell you what they're valuing the property at. And there's a button there where you can click and see comparable home values. And they're going to tell you what is the Zillow algorithm basing this valuation on. And they're going to actually show you the pictures of those recent sales. And so sometimes you can go click on those pictures and see, and you can know right away if it's likely an accurate valuation or not, because what you want to see is that whenever you're looking at those houses that it's pulling from, you want to see that those look kind of very similar in size and finish, that you want those to be the same. So the more sameness those are, the better the valuation. But if you go and click on those properties and one's a really nice house, one's like an okay house, one's a 2-story, one is a 2-bedroom house, like that's not going to give you good data. But a real estate agent, whoever you're working with, especially if you're thinking about making an offer on a property, they're going to be able to pull recent sales in the neighborhood. They're going to pull recent sales that are very similar to the house that you're thinking about. And they're going to say, hey, okay, based on what's selling and what has sold, this is likely what the house is going to be valued at. Now, that is something that can really, really be helpful when you are making an offer on a property. And that is something that your real estate agent can help pull those comparables. So you can look at Zillow, and it's just really hard using the public websites that are out there. But I would say that the best way that you can kind of evaluate whether it's giving you accurate information is to go look at those comparable houses and see how closely they match the house that you're actually looking at. Alex said, my coworker told me something about an airport tax. I don't know. That might be a specific tax in a specific county, like a county might be collecting a special local option sales tax or some sort of special tax to pay for a project. But I don't know of any airport tax in general. So good question. Monica, I'm in Florida planning to move there. Dad said I should move to Dawsonville, but he's in Athens. Okay, so Athens, Dawsonville, kind of a distance, right? So that's probably going to be like what? At least an hour and a half drive, hour and 45 minutes, because from Dawsonville to Gainesville, you're at an hour. Gainesville to Dawsonville, you're about 30 minutes. Dawsonville has experienced a lot of growth. So I do have a good video on my channel about Dawsonville. And what we're seeing is that Alpharetta is very popular. So you got Alpharetta down here, And then that's become expensive and popular. So people have gone to Cumming, Georgia, which is just north of Georgia 400, right? And so we're seeing a lot of people move there, and home prices there are starting to get a little bit expensive. So the average home price right now in Cumming is around $500,000. And now people are saying, okay, we wanted to see let's explore something else that's close by, but maybe a more affordable. And so they're going a little bit further north, and that's where they're landing on Dawsonville. So just right up Georgia 400, you've got those three great towns. Dawsonville is still a little bit country, and so some people are going to say, yep, that's me. That's what I want. And some people are going to get there and they're going to think, oh, this is way too rural for me. This is not what I want. You've got a really, really great outlet mall there. So like a premium outlet mall, lots of chain restaurants, lots of growth and development that's happening right there in Dawsonville along that stretch of Georgia 400. And yet you still have parts of the town that are still very mom and pop. You drive through it and you feel like you're in a small southern country town. And that is kind of the feel of Dawsonville. You kind of got like a little mixture of both kind of worlds clashing, but it's not quite as big as anything that you're going to see anywhere else around it. So that might be something to explore for yourself. It just kind of depends on how far away you're willing to be from him, kind of your price point, what you're looking for, and kind of like those day-to-day amenities. One good frame of reference that I always like to give people is how close do you want to be to a Target? So Dawsonville does not have a Target. So if you want to go to Target, you're either going to have to drive over to Gainesville, so 30 minutes, or drive about 30 minutes south into Cumming, and they have a fantastic Target there. So I love that one. But if being close to things like that is not important to you, then sure, Dawsonville could be a really, really great option. My team and I, we do cover Dawsonville. So if you're thinking about making a move, we would love to help you. And of course, we cover all the other Metro Atlanta area as well. So anywhere probably you're considering thinking, we cover, and I'd love to help you with that. My contact information is directly below this video. Bella, I am looking at buying in Lawrenceville or Decula. In your opinion, which is better to raise a family? Good question. So technically, ethics-wise, I'm not allowed to answer this. And I will tell you that we see a lot of people choosing to be in Decula. And there's a couple of different reasons for that. You're going to have a lot more options in Decula as far as family neighborhoods or neighborhoods that a lot of families are attracted to. You will also see in Lawrenceville, if you go study the school ratings, you're going to have some areas of Lawrenceville that are zoned for schools that are more highly rated than others. And so the area of Lawrenceville itself, the downtown is really great. It's going through kind of like a revitalization, really great restaurants and boutiques and shopping right there on downtown Lawrenceville. But you have pockets of Lawrenceville that are still kind of older. They haven't really been renovated as much, or you have some neighborhoods that were built in the 70s and 80s, and they're still great houses, and yet they're houses that haven't been renovated or updated, and they're still largely the exact same as how they were built in the 70s and 80s. And so you just have more newer style homes and neighborhoods in Decula, and that might be something to consider as well. Patty, here again, is there any town near Atlanta that looks like Gilmore Girls town, little town type of town? Yes. So south of Atlanta, there is a town called Covington that looks pretty much like the Gilmore Girls town. And what is it? Stars Hollow? Stars Hollow, I think is the name of the town on Gilmore Girls. Downtown Gainesville is very, very charming. We should have a video for you in about 2 weeks that really highlights downtown Gainesville. We filmed that today. And yet you still have a little bit more busyness, I guess, of having Target and all kind of like the shopping that you would want nearby. But at least downtown wise, it's going to give you maybe a little bit more than Stars Hollow has. Dahlonega is a town that is north of Dawsonville. So about 30 minutes north of Dawsonville. It's a mountain town. That one's definitely very charming. It looks like straight out of a Hallmark movie. We've actually filmed a few Hallmark movies there before for like the Christmas scenes because it's like picture perfect. So check out those areas. Mohammed, is this the right time to negotiate new build? Great question, and it all depends on the builder. So let me give you a great example. In Cumming, there is Toll Brothers is a very popular builder, kind of like on the west side of Lake Lanier. They build in Cumming and Marietta, Roswell. I don't think they have a community in Alpharetta right now. They are a kind of like mid-luxury builder. So their home prices are likely going to start around $700,000. They go up to $1 million price point, depending upon when you can get into the neighborhood and what finishes you put in the house. That builder has strong demand for houses, and you are likely waiting for your house to be finished with Toll Brothers. So with a builder like that, they don't need to negotiate at all. They have plenty of demand. And so they don't. They may offer an incentive for you of about $5,000 or so if you use their preferred lender. Now, they were offering discounts on houses back whenever we saw a big lull in the market in November and December and a little bit in January. But those big, strong incentives have pretty much gone away for a builder like Toll Brothers. Where you can see opportunity is with some of your smaller to medium-sized builders that have inventory right now that they want to move. So the downside to that, though, is that you're buying a house that you don't have any opportunity to customize. So they've already picked out everything in the house. Some people like that, though, right? Because some people don't want to wait on a home to be built. They want a home within the next 30 to 45 days. So for those types of builders where they have standing inventory or a home that's going to be finished in the next 30 days, those houses are the biggest opportunities that we have to negotiate and where builders are offering the most amount of incentives. I'll give you another example. D.R. Horton is a big builder here in the Metro Atlanta area and across the nation. We have a lot of clients that purchase homes from D.R. Horton, and depending upon where their community is, they have a lot of demand for those houses. So we kind of even see across builders in different communities and where those are, the amount of incentives that the builder is offering, if any. Typically, though, like I said, they're all going to offer like some sort of tiny incentive for you to use their preferred lender. But I know of one D.R. Horton community where they had a couple of houses left in the neighborhood, and so they had great discounts on those homes. And then I know of another community in Cumming as well, where we have kind of like a waiting list for the next set of houses to be released so that we can get buyers under contract on those. And it's essentially the price is the price. And here's the like tiny incentive we'll give you to use the preferred lender. Oh, yes, Patty, Stars Hollow. I got it right. Thoughts on Auburn? Auburn is great. I think that made our list of top 5 affordable small towns in Northeast Metro Atlanta area. And Auburn is really growing. They're adding to their downtown and kind of like making it a little bit more attractive for locals there. And there's a lot of growth and development happening in Auburn. So what we're seeing in the Metro Atlanta area is some of these smaller towns that were maybe once kind of forgotten or like an afterthought for a lot of buyers are now becoming an area that developers are really seeking out because that's where there's still land to develop. So they're going there and saying, hey, here's a town that still has land available for sale. We can buy land, we can develop a neighborhood here, and we can put in 150 houses. Let's go for it. And so that's what we're seeing in some of these smaller towns. So Auburn has a lot of great new construction options, as well as Monroe, which is not that far away from Auburn, like a 15, 20-minute drive. And there's a lot of great options in Monroe as well. Carla asked, is Ashton Woods a good builder? Yes. So they do have a good reputation here locally as being kind of like a good local medium-sized builder. And, with anything, you are going to be able to tell when you walk into new construction homes whether the builder is good or whether the builder is bad. And you're just going to get that by looking at the quality and finishes of the home. So I've been in a lot of new construction homes. You would not believe the amount of builders that will build a house with like crooked walls, like literally, like you can look down the baseboard and see kind of like waves in the baseboard. And it's always important that you go see a finished house that the builder has built and really look at that and study like what do the corners look like? Corners, you would think that corners would be at 90-degree angle, right? No, go look at those corners. Some of your smaller builders don't pay attention to that, or even some of the bigger builders that are mass building houses, sometimes even they're not the best at those kind of finishing details, but you can really see in the community like how they're building those houses. So I definitely recommend getting out and seeing those houses for yourself, comparing different builders at different price points, or even within the same price point of what those different builders will get you. And you'll be able to kind of tell a little bit of where the builders are spending their money. Are they using good quality products? Are they cutting corners and like putting in the cheapest materials possible? Like you can just get a sense and feel for that. But no, Ashton Woods typically builds a really good house, and we've had some really happy clients with them, and we'd be happy to help you as well and see if we can negotiate a really good deal for you. Mohammed, can the lender figure in the tax break, or is that done after the fact? It is going to be done after the fact. So that's a great question. If the current, it's going to be done after the fact, because the lender is going to base it on the fact that you don't get a discount. They're going to want to know, can you afford to pay the tax break or the tax rate with that escrowed into your mortgage without that tax break? Then what they're going to do is after the fact, once you apply for it, once that's applied to your property taxes, then you can go back to your lender or whoever's servicing your loan and say, hey, this was applied to my account. Go back and reconfigure my payment, and they will be able to rerun your escrow account and determine what your new payment is. Because once you get it, they know that you're going to get it. It's not like you're going to go backwards in age and not qualify for it anymore. But initially, yes, they are not going to be able to do that, and they're not going to do that. So it's just a little bit of a frustrating thing you'll have to go through temporarily. Anthony, I've been seeing a ton of new construction in Monroe. Is now a good time to buy or wait for a few more developments? I say now is the time to buy. So anytime you can get into an area sooner rather than later, kind of like on the headwind, tailwind, headwind, the headwinds of kind of like an area kind of exploding in growth. That's going to be the opportunity where you can get a house at the least expensive price, and the area around it, as more things come in and as more developments come in, your home that you locked in at a good price, that's going to continue to appreciate. Whereas waiting, you're just then going to pay more of a premium for those houses at that time. The perfect example of this is in a new construction community. I know that you can feel me on this one, but I know that you've experienced this where you're driving down the road and you see a sign for a new construction neighborhood and it says home starting in the low 400s. And so you pull into the new construction community, you go in, you're excited because you're like, wow, these homes are in my price point. And then you go and you talk to the new construction agent and they're like, yeah, our home prices are $525. And you're like, wait, what happened to that low 400 sign? Well, it was low 400s whenever they started that community a year and a half ago. That's when those home prices were low 400s. And because they just continue to build in those price increases, the homes on the last phases of the neighborhood or the middle to last phases of that neighborhood are going to be way more expensive than the homes at the very beginning of the neighborhood. Now, the kind of turnaround there, though, is that if you have an opportunity to buy sooner rather than later, you're going to have to kind of deal with new construction going on in the neighborhood likely for the next year or so. So that is something to keep in mind. Well, y'all, I have greatly appreciated your time tonight and joining me on the live stream. Thank you so much. And if you have not already liked and subscribed to my channel, make sure that you do that. And as always, I'll be back here next Wednesday answering your questions live. And we have a new video every single Sunday coming up as well for you. So make sure you like and subscribe so that you get alerts for that every single time. And I will see you next week.